Hello and welcome to the second part of me reading the Rant email which I got. I don't know how much I'll be able to read through this time, but last time I was able to get 56 minutes in, and I only got to about halfway through page 8 of 17. So, without further ado, let's continue. Here's where I left off. These are cars which use electric motors and batteries, and which recharge the battery pack using kinetic energy when braking or coasting uphill or downhill. You need to realize that a car like a Prius does not need an oil change every 5,000 miles. That makes no sense. That has no context within this. It's just useless information, and actually it does need regular oil changes because it actually has a gasoline motor. Anyway, continuing on. Prius cars use their combustion engine much less than a car which weighs the same as a Prius, but has the same amount of horsepower. What? Yeah, actually Priuses or Prii way more than gasoline-powered cars because they have the weight of the battery pack and the electric engine and the gas engine. Anyway, continuing on. Excluding the rare instances when the motor charges the battery. Rare? That's actually how it charges the battery. That's actually how the whole thing works. It's not perpetual energy. You have to use the gasoline engine to charge the battery. Excluding the rare instances when the motor charges the battery via the electric motor, the gas engine is used much less and does not need to generate the same thrust as a non-hybrid vehicle since it's supplemented significantly by the electric motor. Visit Toyota's website. You may be surprised to find that the electric motor can generate about the same amount of horsepower as the gas engine. So it's no like, I'm guessing he's trying to say not, but so it's no like the gas engine is doing 90% of the work while the electric motor is only doing 10. Leaving a stop sign, only the electric motor plus bat are used, and then the gas engine supplements the electric motor to drive the car. Hence, the gas engine does about half the work of moving the car in the desired direction of travel. Also, it's possible to cruise only on electric power at 40 miles per hour on a slightly downhill road. I'm not implying that you can't do 40 on a perfectly level road without no gas engine assistance. Okay? And when braking and cruising, the gas engine is off. My point is this. You don't need an oil change every 5,000 miles for a hybrid. I would get one every 8 to 9,000 miles if I drove more economically, with less of a lead foot / less aggressive use of the gas pedal. Save yourself some money. Save yourself some money and buy books from Dr. Dino, Komoto Indoctrinate. What? Dr. Dino. Komoto indoctrinate people in the opposite way that evolutionists indoctrinate people. God bless. A God that uses evolution to make a man is retarded, stupid, cruel, wasteful, and definitely not worthy of worship. What's the matter? You can't get it right the first time? Bullet point C. Think of the lack of gun control The idea that lack of gun control caused Columbine is BS. People used to have guns in the back of their trucks and nobody got shot. And nobody got shot during those good old days. Usually the guns that people would put in the gun rack in the back of their truck or in the cab of the truck were hunting rifles. Killing someone with a hunting rifle is quite foolish, and since the barrel of a hunting rifle is extremely long, it would be more like, okay, stand perfectly still while I aim this up and look down the sight. It's not the same as using a handgun or a shotgun. Interesting fact, while I'm recording this, it's actually April 20th. And those who don't know, the Columbine shooting occurred April 20th, 1999. As I was saying, the idea that lack of gun control caused Columbine is BS. People used to have guns in the back of their truck and nobody got shot during those good old days. Could evolution teaching be responsible for events like Columbine? No, and I won't go into that. I'll talk about it in a separate video. Also, the reason a wimp gets beat up isn't because he's a wimp, it's because the bullies may have a demonically influenced desire to beat up unfit kids. D. Truth is not determined by graphics. For example, at the California Science Center, during Hubble's 45-minute feature, a lot of philosophy is simply stated as truth. For example, an awesome fly-by a star nursery is shown while a narration is taking place. In truth, star formation is not taking place, it's just dust clearing out of the way of stars which were previously hidden. Just because the dot gets brighter and brighter doesn't mean a star formation is taking place. Just go to any of my videos on YouTube and click on the first link for treatment of star formation, the Big Bang, billions of years of time, which is possible if time runs differently as in 6,000 years on Earth, equated billions. Equated billions of years in the distant parts of the universe. From the vantage point of Earth, during the beginning of God's creation of this universe, evolutionists have changed fairy tale logic, not to insult any evolutionists themselves, but the idea. Oh, don't worry, I'm pretty sure you've already insulted them multiple times throughout this paper. That time plus chance equals man. What? Even the simplest man-made machines have to be designed. A simple everyday box could not evolve, let alone an incomprehensible, complex human being. So you're saying that human beings are incomprehensible in the very being. Good job, you just said you don't understand human beings. E. When Kent Hovind shows a picture of his wife and says, "That's not my wife, that's just a picture of her," somebody in the audience might think, what a dumbass. But realize that Kent Hovind realizes that there is a distinction between a picture of somebody and that person of the picture it depicts. It is possible to be deceived and think that that picture is representing what things look like in real life when it actually doesn't. Like 3D graphics. I've also heard that pornographic images are manipulated, so if you're thinking you're looking at an image of a real woman, you may be wrong, therefore deceived by demons/Satan. The truth is, a real woman can't be a real blessing while what? The truth is, a real woman can be a blessing while a woman, in quotation marks, in a magazine is a fake. Use the technique to get a woman. There's nothing wrong with that since you're not manipulating somebody's mind or making them do bad things. I don't know what the technique is. Probably slang for something. F. The reason why it's hard to have a willingness to accept change is because you have old neutral pathways that are wanting to be fed, and when you don't feed them, they feel angry. And when you start a new neural pathway, there's no chemical rush yet for the new path, but there is for the old path. G. People don't seem to realize that public schools and museums are evolutionist churches. You already said that multiple times. H. Sperm and egg coming together and making a baby is not the same as macroevolution. Sperm and egg deal with the same species, while macroevolution deals with different species. The process of microevolution, variation, and macroevolution, change in species, are different. Macroevolution is not just lots of microevolution. The mechanism behind macroevolution, increasing genetic complexity, is different from the mechanism of microevolution. Microevolution observed while macroevolution is not. God did not create decay, suffering, and death. All those were a result of man's sin. God created heaven and earth. Man's sin created decay, suffering, and death. J. Evolutionists should start their own private schools instead of using Christians' tax dollars to preach their religion in public schools. Yes, history is weird. Okay. K. Divergent evolution, a fancy name for microevolution. L. If your thinking is wrong, you will feel bad. For example, if you think a person's presence affects you negatively, then you are thinking incorrectly. God can use that person and your situation for good in the future. Know that. Also, if you feel bad after being stolen from, it's your fault that you feel bad because you're thinking incorrect. Trust me, nothing is bad if you feel good. So the many lives lost in the Boston bombing is good if you feel good about the event. The many lives lost in the Columbine shooting is good if you feel good about the event. The many lives lost in 9/11 is good if you feel good about the event. That's all perception and it's warped. What you want is a feeling anyways. But you can also want things, which is fine. M. Back pain is not due to bad design. It's due to decay/bad cushioning. Also, with better design, we would look different. Probably not as upright as now. And the need that the vertebrae could be stronger is not really a better design. It's just that we don't need stronger vertebrae. Okay, not really. I broke my bone before, and God used that situation to show me a glimpse of how much Christ suffered on the cross for us. Everything happened for a reason. Anyways, if you had stronger vertebrae, you would have to eat more since you would weigh more and therefore have to do more work to move around. In addition, there's nothing wrong with the vertebrae we have now. It's not too weak, it's perfect. And tails, we didn't lose it because we didn't need it. A tail would be handy while driving. How can you lose something you never had? Talking about your own theory, you said we didn't come from monkeys at all. If we didn't come from monkeys using your logic, we wouldn't have even been created with tails. So why would you say we didn't lose it because we didn't need it? That's a double negative. It doesn't even make sense. I mean, maybe what you're trying to say is we lost it because we didn't need it, but by saying we didn't lose it means we still have it. Or are you implying that we never had it? But if we never had it, it would have been, we never had a tail, we didn't need it, which would be slightly better. But what you said was we didn't lose it, meaning we still have it. Then you said because we didn't need it. How could you not, by saying we didn't lose it, could imply we have it. So we have it because we don't need it. You're saying that we have a redundant feature, hypothetically, if I'm following your logic. A tail would be handy while driving. Steer, tune the radio, and drink a Coke simultaneously. And with 2 bags of groceries while walking up to the door. To argue that stronger vertebrae is better design is like saying that we should have lead feet because it's better design. Lead feet would be heavier and not as agile as the feet we have now. Although it wouldn't be stronger. It would be stronger. Well, sure, it'd be more likely to be hit. Well, sure, it would be more likely to be hit if it cannot be as agile due to its mass. Bottom line, we're fine the way we're created, and if something happens to us and part of us doesn't work, it isn't due to poor design, it's due to God working through it all to teach us things in a non-condemning way. Just because something can get injured / die doesn't mean the design was poor. Decay, suffering, and death started when man first sinned. Oh. Be sure to fight injustice and fight back. Fight against all organizations, ideologies, etc. Christianity is an ideology. Good job. For example, if an employee of a business treats you unfairly, try to shut them down and tell about the injustice over the internet. Earlier in your paper, you basically told us to suck it up and don't say anything. Now you're telling us to yell at people. Good job. Facebook works. Devote daily time to overturning the business in the best way that you can think. A resource will come from unexpected resources when you desire to do what's right. However, have the right intentions. Hope that you will send the right message without getting revenge on the person. Vengeance is the Lord's. He will repay. The Genesis 1, God repaying. Ouch. Fight for what's wrong. For example, just try to shut down the business for the purpose of showing a person that he or she treated you was indeed wrong, and that you are not just a nobody to be pushed around. That makes no sense. Evolutionism versus creationism is not a scientific battle, since no scientific evidence supports either view. Remember? We can't see the creation and we can't see the evolution. Also, the evidence is open to interpretation. It's a spiritual battle in which eternity is in the balance. Are you participating in the balance? Q. Also remember that there is no such thing as total free speech in this country. According to Kevin Trudy, I am referencing Kevin Trudy because if the information is wrong, I want you to know that I don't personally believe this. He was sued over $45 million for expressing his views, which included the idea that drugs cause disease, and that the real problem beyond sickness is the 4 reasons mentioned in this email and other information. Remember, the media is controlled by people, and people have their own beliefs. If there hasn't been a single time in history when majority was right, what makes you think the majority is right now? And if people are deceived, that doesn't mean they're less valuable. They're just as valuable as non-deceived people, if there's such a thing. Update. Brakes are in a multi-billion-dollar industry. Full hybrids use the motor to slow down the car and not the brakes as much. So if So make sure your brake pads and shoes on your hybrid really need replacing if you don't trust the maintenance dudes. Just trying to help. That makes no sense. You have no idea what you're talking about. Interesting thing about Kevin Trudeau. Reading from this article here. Okay, so it says earlier here, so basically, the guy in the email, from my understanding, is saying that Kevin Trudeau was speaking the truth and it's so awesome and etc. Well, looking at this article, it says, quote, in 1990, Trudeau posed as a doctor in order to deposit $80,000 in false checks, and in 1991 he pleaded guilty to larceny. That same year, Trudeau faced federal charges of credit card fraud after he stole the names and social security numbers of 11 customers of a mega memory product and charged approximately $122,735 and 86 and 68 cents on the credit cards. He spent 2 years in federal prison because of his conviction. Later in an interview, he explained his crimes as, quote, youthful indiscretions, not as bad as they sound, and besides, both were partly the fault of other people, and besides, he has changed. The larceny, he explains, as a series of math errors compounded by the mistake of a bank official. Also, as for why the bank thought he was a doctor, that was just a simple misunderstanding, because he jokingly referred to himself as a doctor in memory. He still can't quite believe he was prosecuted for larceny charges. Give me a break, he says. Basically, if you look up the guy, if you look on the Wikipedia article, he's basically a fraud, a swindler, and anyone who believes in him is either mentally deficient or they want to be scammed. Okay, continuing on. There is this idea that we show in car showrooms is a result of what consumers have demanded. So it's not that car companies just design cars without consumer input. Also, it's a lie to think that consumer demand cannot change. The auto industry's production habits, what types of cars they produce, When you think someone is sexy, they're not really sexy intrinsically. For example, kids may see a sexy person, but not know what sexiness is. Sexiness has nothing to do with looks and everything to do with mindset. People are taught how to view people. It is also a lie to believe that if a woman dresses immodestly, they cause you to lust. No, it's your choice. I'm not trying to imply that lusting is wrong. However, I'm just trying to imply that lusting is... I'm also not trying to imply that lusting is right, either. You flip-flop on your stand and opinions a lot. A habit can be developed when you think of people with less and less sexual thoughts. I'm not trying to imply that it's wrong to see your wife/husband as sexy, however. And then he ends. It's like, however, what? When you listen to music, you feel bad. It's not that the music makes you feel bad, it's just that it's just out of habit. You begin to focus on what you don't want to happen. When you listen to certain kinds of music and when you focus on what you don't want, you feel bad. The idea that boys are boys because of hormones. Listen, Just because there is a correlation between immorality and hormones doesn't mean that the hormones are causing boys to be horn toads, really. Another explanation is that Satan/demons are possessing the boys and causing them to have lustful passions. However, these passions can be resisted by choosing not to lust. The non-existence of anything cannot be proved. Think about it. W. If a person believes that evolution is preached in schools and museums around the world because it is the truth, that person is deceived. Ever heard of a world run by Satan? A deceived world? A lost world? No, not Jurassic Park. Haha, XG. X. If you have a medical problem, remember, as long as you're feeling good, vibrating good, your situation can't be bad. Jesus can raise the dead, give sight to the blind, even if you have no real eyeballs. Sight is good and comes from God. Therefore, even though your eyeballs work, God doesn't need you to use your eyeballs for you to see. Amazing. If you're vibrating good, thinking about what you want and believing you'll get them eventually, and when you believe that you'll get it, you'll want it, you'll feel good, that's what's coming in. If you're vibrating bad, that's what's coming in. 2. You get what you really, really want, and also you get what you really, really don't want. It's what you're focusing on simultaneously sending out with your brain. It's what you're focusing on and simultaneously sending out with your brain. That still doesn't make sense upon rereading. Why? It's possible to have lots of money and not love money. There's nothing wrong with having lots of money, either. After all, doesn't Jesus truly own all the riches of the world anyway? Then he shifts to Z. Elemental P, Q, R, S, T, U, Y, Q, V, W, X, Y, and Z. Z. How can Albert Einstein be the smartest man who ever lived? Christ was, since he was all-knowing. Why? Back to Y, who cares? Because we have, bullet point Z, and then we go to Y, even though we already had bullet point Y. Why? The only person who is better than you is Christ. To believe otherwise is a lie. And that's why you can do anything you want. Seriously, if you want to be a singer and you can't sing, you can sing in other ways. And besides, you may want to sing because it makes you feel better, and others like your singing. But you just said that listening to music makes you feel bad. How can singing music or singing a song make you feel better? You're just contradicting yourself. Well, other activities like helping others can make you feel beautiful and can make others like you as well. X. You may think others are laughing at smiling in a helpless situation. You may think they're insane. However, realize that there is a heaven there's a heaven where no problems exist, no suffering, and death exists. In a sense, it does not matter if there is a lot of pollution on the earth, as long as we go to heaven for eternity. Nobody is insane, except for you. It's possible for God to give people good feelings, a sense of security, realization about things, etc. A person who is just sitting there smiling at nothing is not insane or retarded, as the devil would want you to believe. W. You went from point X to point W. Whatever frequency your brain sends out, the same frequency is attracted to you magnetically. What you put out comes back. From a physiological, scientific standpoint, when you emit a frequency, that frequency comes back. That the genie in your Aladdin's lamp is your brain. Magic exists. The genie is you. Your wish is your command. When you put out a frequency, the law of attraction says it must come back. This is just utter insanity. V. Feel good. Define what you want. Believe you'll eventually get it while realizing the how will be made clear in the future. Be blissfully happy. If others think you're retarded, that's their view. And realize that they may only think that because that's the only view they've been exposed to, and they might choose to be miserable / view other people in a negative way on purpose, which is sad. Sad in a non-judgmental way. Law of attraction breaks all physical laws, so that's why it looks like strange phenomena, serendipity. Who would have thought that would have happened? Miracles, eye-opening magic, luck, luckiest person in the world. What a coincidence. Who cares about grammatical errors related to comma placement? Who would believe that just happened? Boy, that's a miracle. When it works, not to imply that it sometimes doesn't work. T. When Kaiser Permanente tells you things differently to change your brain, realize that doing the same things again and again and again challenges your brain as well. I think someone said that the definition of insanity was, I believe, something on the lines of doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. That was from Albert Einstein. So by saying that doing the same things over and over and over again challenges your brain, that means you're implying that doing the same things over and over and over and expecting the same different result, you've just defined insanity. You are clinically insane. Remember, facts are almost always opinion, including what I say. S. Remember what Jesus said. Blessed are those who believe but have not seen. Apply this to believing you'll get what you want in your life / want to see happen. For example, you can wish that the world would see the other side in science and be opposed not only to the evidences for evolution, fake evidences, but also the evidences against evil. Real evidences. I'm guessing that means evolution. R. Much of what we call science is not science. It's just philosophy of naturalism. Q. Not everything on the news is true, obviously. For example, in the movie District 9, okay, if movie names are supposed to be underlined instead of put in quotes, I apologize. This guy was turning into an alien and supposed to lie and said he had sex with an alien and was spread. Actually, he did not have interspecies sex. Interracial sex is sex in the same species, so that's okay. I was actually expecting this person to be a racist. Being a member of the same species means that you can reproduce with them. However, the dad also supposedly told the guy's fiance / wife certain things to try to protect her from harm from him. But that view is philosophical and of itself. Not to down the philosophical view, but I think you get it. Realize that when you hear about something and you instantly believe it, what you hear without even realizing that it might be false, you are prejudiced and your thinking is messed up. You should always challenge every single thing you believe in. So why should I feel in what I believe in? What? So why do I believe in what I believe in? The previous point not saying that every single other point that you talked about went on a tangent. It made no sense. The point you're talking about news and movies and stuff, it never really got to the point you're talking about. It feels good and might be the truth. Fair answer. I trust in Jesus Christ not just because I know that He is the way, truth, and life. I do so because I believe by faith, and the funny thing is, once I believe in faith, Jesus reveals Himself to me. Now, it's not my imagination, I can actually feel His presence, believe it or not, and I felt His presence coming down at least twice from the sky. One time it occurred while I was driving, and it was so real that I actually was moved to tears. P. If somebody calls you paranoid for questioning everything, don't mind it. You will realize that a lot of truth is not truth at all. O. It is possible that you can be believed by billions to have committed a horrible crime, even if you have never committed that horrible act. But don't let that discourage you. Only the truth matters in the eyes of Christ. Anyways, if you suffer and die, even if you suffer and die, and one technique used to convince others that what they are propagating is the truth is to spread it using many means. However, just because it is in magazines, books, textbooks, in the newspapers, etc., does not prove what they are saying is true. Can you imagine what would happen to the world if people who controlled these outlets wanted to propagandize, train/convert the world? It would work, now wouldn't it? Presenting one side of interpretation of the evidence is training people, not educating people. Instead of watching porn, masturbating, and looking and imagining false realities with Megan Fox, you can search for images and items on Google such as koala yummies, billion-dollar house homes, etc. You can also reread your favorite novels and enjoy them in a different way because you are different in person compared to the last time you read the books. In high school, I was interviewed along with other fellow Christians. I talked about a personal relationship with God, and she talked about some other Christian things. Interestingly enough, what came out on Apache News was a guy who said there was evidence for evolution. Talk about selective news sharing. K. Well, point K. If when you're interviewed, you start screaming and babbling and start throwing Bibles at them, which I'm guessing you probably didn't do, but if the way you're conveying your thoughts through here was the same way you conveyed it through the interview, you probably just scrapped it and threw it away and ran something a little bit more cohesive. K. Satan thought for a long time, how do I explain to people that the world made itself? He came down to the Big Bang Theory. J. You need to feed your brain every day just like you feed your tummy. You don't need to watch porn/lust all day. You watch the same Lamborghini video on YouTube again and again. It will be different every day for you because you will change every day in person. Again, the definition of insanity. Doing something over and over and over and expecting a different result. And it will be different every day for you because you will change every day in person. Even great movies that you've enjoyed in the past can be enjoyed again, and it will be a new movie to you because you're different. What I'm really trying to say, do something else besides porn if you want, and don't think negative thoughts. Remember, anytime you feel bad, you're having a negative thought. If I'm typing something again, it's for emphasis and not because I'm retarded. No, it's because you're insane. You like redundancy. Just because... What? Just remember that just because evolution is being pushed in movies and propaganda such as Transformers 2 doesn't mean it's true, and just because a bunch of scientists get together and agree on something doesn't mean that what the scientists believe in is true. H. Realize that you only know the person's actions, not their motives. When a person kills a person and you think why that person killed that person, you think you know. Realize it's just your opinion and what you think may be false. Also, be sure to realize that Christ can also reveal truth to people. However, it may be true that you have to take all things, including the variancy of revelation from Christ by faith. G. According to Kent Hovind in one of the videos, it is the threat of a lawsuit that prevents people from teaching creationism in schools. You've said that already. Teaching of creationism in public schools has already been legal. However, one of the real reasons is fear of consequences. However, good consequences should be what teachers are thinking about when they teach creation. Sorry, I was looking something up. Interesting. Definition of consequence. Noun. A result or effect of an action or condition. 2. Importance or relevance. The past is of no consequence. Remember, good consequences should really be what teachers are thinking about when they teach creation, not the bad. Remember, what you really want, you will get. No, yes, going against Christian fundamentalism, saying that you're thinking about yourself as opposed to thinking about Christ. And what you really don't want, you get that too. Okay then. F. If you're constantly feeling bad, that means you're constantly having junk thoughts in your head. I'm not talking about injuries like broken bones. What? Focus on what you want instead. G. The museums and science centers of the world are the evolutionist churches. The only difference is that Christians pay taxes for the destruction of the next generation. H. The reason you think a movie sucks isn't because the movie sucks. It's because when you watch the sucky movie, your focus is on what you don't want. So if you want to feel good while watching a sucky movie, focus on something good instead. I. Did you know that if you wash your car with filtered drinking water, the type of filtered water that contains no chlorine, your car will not have any cum stains? You mean water stains from hard water? The stains are formed from chlorine in the water. Actually, it's formed from the minerals also. J. I don't know why you would have seminal fluid stains on your car. I'm guessing that's slang, but okay, that's kind of gross. J. If you have a bad feeling or bad realization about someone, you are expressing that bad feeling or bad realization. You are revealing that you're paranoid / have bad thoughts run through your head. You just said earlier that thinking something doesn't mean you're paranoid, or if you're oh my god, you are contradicting yourself. Okay. If they think it's hard to talk to others because of their race, supposed background, etc., it's not because they make you uncomfortable, it's actually because of your own mental habits / neural habits that you have, which make it hard for you to talk to others. You can start to groove new pathways by thinking in a way that makes you feel comfy when talking to others whom you were uncomfortable talking to before. L. I disagree with Kent Hovind when he says, I'm paraphrasing, that you aren't impressed by what man does when you consider what God has done. Actually, I'm quite impressed by both God's acts and Michael Jordan's top plays, so to speak. Oh. I use the phrase, so to speak, because it's because of my habits that I enjoy things and not because those things make me enjoy those things. M. When you get dumped, you really have to think of your situation. You don't really have to think of your situation as bad. Just focus on what you want and believe that you'll get it eventually. N. Jesus Christ is a super duper smart. He knows that if a person has riches, yachts, Ferraris, not fairies, the best and most expensive food, etc., but is not thankfulness, sooner or later, or maybe immediately, that person is miserable. Christ knows that thankfulness is the super duper magical ingredient that makes life awesome. Satan wants you to believe that it's the stuff that makes life awesome. What? Okay. Nice drawing there. You've just implied that Satan agrees with Jesus because you are unclear on your subject. Good job. Here's what he put. Christ knows that thankfulness is the super duper magical ingredient that makes life awesome. Satan wants us to believe that it's the stuff that makes life awesome. Yes. Okay then. Oh! Just because macroevolution and the Big Bang Theory can be simulated on a computer does not prove that it actually happened in reality. P. Satan wants you to believe that things are annoying, useless, destroying my life, etc. actually, as long as the careless driver is annoying. What? As long as you're feeling good, the situation can't be bad. Feel good all day. Stop thinking that the careless driver is annoying. Focus on what you do want and believe that you'll get it eventually. Instead, nothing is useless. Everything will ultimately work out to your advantage also, as long as you continue to feel good, and that is achieved by focusing on what you want to do and believe that you'll get it eventually. You just don't see how yet. You don't see the grand scheme of things. Take by faith that you'll get what you want and you'll get it eventually. Take by faith that everything is working for your ultimate advantage. Don't take by faith that you'll fail or that things are working to your disadvantage. Remember, Joseph was arrested when taken to Egypt. He looked bad, but then he became king, second only to Pharaoh. Next, starry movies are starry by definition. That is a lie. That is a tautology. Starry movies are starry. How are they starry? Because they're starry movies. How are they starry movies? Because they're starry. That's circular logic. If you believe starry movies are not starry, they are not starry. Don't fall for the mass hysteria and believe that they're starry intrinsically. You put your interpretation on the movies and label them as starry because you have been trained to. Next, light may be red-shifted near quasars, near the beginning of the universe, because quasars are probably objects with insane gravitational pull, and one reason light may be red-shifted is due to the light being pulled by gravity. We don't know what light is. Sure, I'm not that ignorant. What? It has wave properties and particle properties. However, to say that light is a wave and particle is not telling me what it is. Are you describing light, not saying what it is? Can you paint light red? Put it in a jar? You could also say that I'm good at basketball and can swim, but are you describing me for who I am? Human? Next. Losing control of your own emotions is the same as blaming / giving credit to others for making you feel a certain way. Good or bad feelings. Next. According to Kevin Trudy, a person may cry, turn beet red, etc. when that person is insulted. However, a person may have the habits, mental, and continuation, and may have the habits, mental, of continuing to feel good despite being insulted. In fact, being insulted can be turned to good when you feel good and realize that that person may be pointing out an error that you can fix. Kevin said, that's how you feel and that's not how I feel. If you say, what you say doesn't control my destiny, I'm in front of you, it's because your own... What you say doesn't control my destiny. I'm in control of my own destiny, and that's fine. Paraphrases. If you feel bad after someone comes in front of you, it's because of your own mental habits, and not because of the other guy. Think about it this way. If I send an email to a girl and the girl reads it while I'm asleep, is it possible for me to make her feel a certain way? That makes no sense. Next, if I haven't mentioned this before, it's impossible for a supercomputer to simulate past events through billions of years, since the Heisenberg's uncertainty principle will not even allow one atom to be accurately speed tested and located simultaneously, and certainly not over billions of years. Heisenberg uncertainty principle. Z. Intro. There is no unambiguous evidence which proves star formation is taking place. Just because dust gets blown in certain directions does not mean it collapses into a new star. Dust just clears from one area and goes to the next, and a star which is already there is now exposed when it was previously hidden by dust. But you don't see that explanation in textbooks. DrDanner.com. When you leave gas alone in space, it spreads and does not condense, even in a jar. It spreads and does not condense, even in a jar. It spreads and does not condense. Space is cold. And even if gas molecules get hot by radiation, heat, etc., they will naturally tend to move away from each other. What? Basically, stars could only come into existence if they were created. Our sun is shrinking. Perhaps the only evidence the sun has been burning for billions of years is the assumption that it has. The sun may very well be powered by non-nuclear means. Hence, the missing element from fusion, if fusion were to take place. You can respect a person's respect a person and disagree with their ideas at the same time, no matter how high up the person may be. You're certainly high. Oh my god, this is insane. Oh my god, no. Feeling good equals vibrating good equals getting good. Laughing equals feeling good. If you feel good, it's because you believe you'll get what you want. Don't put a time limit on when you'll get it, because then you'll start to doubt, and when you doubt, that prevents the whole process from working anyways. And when you believe what you'll want, you'll get them eventually. The secret is that your brain is a transmitter of frequency, and that unlike a radio transmitter signal, your brain signal does not weaken with distance. Your transmissions also affects other brains. So when you want something, something wants you. Not violently, but using the law of attraction, which is a more powerful law than gravity. It also has an infinite speed of transmission. Law of attraction versus law of gravity. It also has an infinite speed of transmission, so that the transmission is felt the moment it is transmitted, even from thousands of miles away. This is why when I believed that I would get a Rolls Royce, I saw a Rolls Royce on the freeway, because it is being attracted into my life. No, that's just self-made perception. If you think about something, then you start to notice it more. Like if you think about, like, oh, why I want to buy a new pair of Vans shoes. Then you'll start noticing Vans stores, you'll start noticing Vans advertisement, etc. It's because your mind is thinking about it. It's not because it's coming closer to your life. Also, interesting thing about uncertainty principle. The uncertainty principle just talks about the momentum of a particle. It doesn't talk about how it existed or if it exists. Yeah, he's just insane. I could also feel the Rolls Royce getting closer and closer and closer and more a part of my reality. The ultimate step is when it finally comes into existence and I have the Rolls Royce to drive. You can be as specific or as general as you want about your desires. You can attract love, etc. into your life as well. Laughing equals the alkaline state equals disease can exist. X. Basically the idea is that you listen to people who have what you want. I am just a messenger of this information. Kevin Trudeau has printed in his book that there are natural cures to virtually all diseases. I'll continue this later. I am exhausted.